They're always sending me these catalogs.
It's a story that I think should be told. I've been reliving it now for quite a few years.
No, I get this all the time from...
They call me Tony. I was born December 4th, 1925. I'm 86 years old. I joined the U.S. Navy on my 18th birthday on December the 4th of 1943. Our main goal then near the end of the war, close to 1944, was to help MacArthur in the invasion of the Philippines. 3 destroyers were sent up into Ormoc Bay, the Cooper, the Mold, and the Sumner. I was a radio operator at the time, was in the radio at General Quarters. The chief radioman asked for a volunteer. No one volunteered. He looked at me and he says, "Autorino, you just have volunteered." I walked out of the radio shack, went down onto the main deck. The 5-inch 38s were shooting. The ship was then hit by a torpedo after knocking out a Japanese transport with about 8,000 troops on it, a couple of airplanes, and a submarine shot a torpedo at the Cooper. I was on the main deck, and the next thing you know, I was blown up into the water, and I watched the ship go down. It sunk in 36 seconds. The propellers were still turning. I landed on a raft, wooden raft, with 6 other sailors and 1 officer. And we floated there for a couple of days, picked up by the Filipino guerrillas, brought to a little island called Cebu, and then there we were picked up a couple of days later by the U.S. Navy planes and brought to a hospital ship. Being in that water, lots of things become before your mind. You can remember from you were young, up until that very moment that you were in the water. And I'm of Catholic faith, and I am a great believer of the Lord. And of course, all I did was prayed that I'm a 19-year-old man, that I want to go home to my mother. And the good Lord has brought me home to my mother. And I made a vow to the Lord that I would be a good humanitarian all my life. And I think my wife agrees with me. Sometimes she says I talk too much about it, but I am a great believer, and I just talk to everybody.
They took me right out of high school. In fact, my mother had to go downtown to fight with them. They were going to take me out ahead of time, but she went down there and fought with them. They let me graduate with my class. I knew I was going to have to go sooner or later. I was thinking that I'd get put in the Army, and just that day, they started drafting for the Navy. That's what I wanted. I spent most of my time on the Wilkes-Barre, all the time, in fact, 2 years. We were in the South Pacific. I lost both my ears, and our radio shack was right under the guns, the big guns, and I lost both my ears. We were in a couple of battles in Philippines, but my most experience, the one I really liked, was when we went into Japan for the peace terms. And we stood right alongside the Missouri. And we had to keep our guns on Japan because they didn't trust them until after they signed the peace terms. Oh, I knew it was going to be history. It made me feel good.
World War II defined us as a nation. In May of 2004, we celebrated the veterans of this war with the dedication of a National World War II Memorial in Washington, D.C. Honor Flight is a nonprofit organization whose sole purpose is to fly veterans to visit the memorial dedicated in their honor.
There's a list that they produce every year, and there's like about 500 people on the list, 500 veterans with Southeast Honor Flight in Stewart. So what happened is one of the people on there, one of the veterans on the list, died before he got to go on the flight. Kind of touched my heart, and then I started investigating how the actual work. They said, "Mayor, why can't we do our own honor flight here in Port St. Lucie?" And this is how it all generated. I was pretty excited. I said, "You know what? You're absolutely right. There's no reason why we can't do our own flight. If we could raise $33,000, they actually will get a plane for the city of Port St. Lucie and get them on the flight."
It is to these brave Americans to whom we owe a debt of gratitude. But our time to say thank you is running out.
It was heartbreaking to hear that some of them don't make it because of the flight and what it entails and the list that's so long.
August of last year, I submitted my application for the honor flight.
I've never been to Washington. That's one state I've never been in. And I thought it would be a thrill.
I believe it's a great honor to be awarded to go to an honor flight.
We raised, I believe, $57,000, and I'm going to be going on May 12th with them.
Should be part of us. Oh, I suppose it'll be very remorse seeing it.
Well, I appreciate the city of Port St. Lucie giving me the honor to speak before all of the people of Port St. Lucie.